Hi, this is teaquilts again, back with some additional fabrics that could or could not be used in the making of stack and whack type quilts. On top I have a novelty child print, and remember in the video part 1 I was talking about that if you had fabric that had a lot of background white space, those perhaps would not be some of your ideal fabrics to use in a stack and whack quilt. And I'll get my mirrors just so I can show you kind of what I mean. You see how you got so much white space there that as you're moving, your blocks are just starting to look like you've just plopped something on the fabric, and there is not what I would call any kind of real bloom happening. It's just, these little random things popping up, and it's not really a whole lot that would hold interest if you were doing this over an entire quilt for a stack and whack type quilt. So that's one fabric, so I would say no to this fabric. This next fabric here is a little bit more filled in, and it has frogs, and it has a lot more color going on with it, and the frog legs are kind of moving, but again it still has just way too much background space in it. And again with the mirrors, you can see where you can kind of plop them to make something interesting, but then when I come off of that area, it's not quite as interesting elsewhere. So it just depends on what you're doing here. It's not quite blooming everywhere that I push the mirror. And what that means about the not blooming everywhere is that you may have half of your blocks that you like and can use in the quilt, and then the other half of your blocks are not going to be so great for a quilt. So then we have this piece here that has very neat little faces in what I would probably say is like a daisy type print. And I just think that this is not a good idea to use because the color is so stagnant, and the pattern it doesn't have a whole lot of variety in it. And so when I put my mirror down, everything that's created here is just going to sort of kind of look the same. There really isn't a whole lot of variation because there just isn't a lot going on. This, again, would not be my ideal choice for using in a stack and whack type quilt. And then we have a fabric here that's pretty filled in. There isn't a whole lot of background space left. And it can give you some texture, some blooming possibilities here again. But again, a lot of your blocks are going to start to look like, they're about the same. There's only so much that you can do with the fabric of this variety. After a while, the blocks will start to bloom and they will start to look the same. Although it could work, it's just not my ideal print for a stack and whack type quilt. The pattern in the repetition itself doesn't have enough things going on in the print to hold its own in a stack and whack type quilt. And then underneath, you see where again the background fabrics are filled in. We've got a lot of different colors going on, and I'm wanting you to guess whether or not this would be a good stack and whack print. I will put the mirror down, let you see what it looks like. So we can move it around, and it just starts to bloom, but there is so much small leaf foliage that it just does not do anything in the background itself. And so again, perhaps not the most ideal fabric for a stack and whack type quilt. Okay, now here's another print here, and we've got a lot of circles in the print. We've got some floral flowers, we've got leafy things going on, but notice that we do have some background fabrics in here. And before we put the mirror on here, take a second to guess whether or not this would be an ideal print for a stack and whack. Okay, I'm going to say yes, because it has so many different things going on in the print that even when I finally do get to some white areas, it's not as bad because there's other things forming around it. So just let me show you by moving my mirror over the print a little first. And you can see the various different types of blocks that can be formed with this stack and whack. And I'd like to show you a circle, but trying to get to a circle so you can kind of see the blooming that I've been talking about. And that's one of the circles that was in the fabric. And then I see another circle over here. So here's my circle. And so you see kind of how it starts to make its own design based on that. So there are so many different things going on. Now here is a white space in the fabric that I was talking about. But you see in the background how that ring of flowers is formed around it, or if I'm pulling it out, I get some other things in the white space. So they may not be ideal blocks. Like here, it may not be the best place, and if it should happen to fall there, then that may be a block I have to give away. But if that same white space happened here, then it's an okay block. It's even better when I could get back to where I had the blue forming kind of roses around it, sort of kind of in that spot. So sometimes, you know, you may not be able to get every block, but overall this would be a great print that could be used for stack and whack. You can just see it blooming. I have one more print I want to show you, and it's on the boat, so bear with me here for a minute. Okay. Now this is a Monet collection from the Alexander Henry Corporation, and I'm going to just try to back off of this. And you notice all the little things, it kind of looks like a Monet painting. And I want to know if you think this would be a great stack and whack quilt or not. Okay. Now it does have very small little detail things. So this is my baby finger. So we're looking at pretty small little detail type things. But this is a Monet collection, and what it does look like is Monet stack and whack blocks if you were to take this and actually do a stack and whack on it. So just look at the design possibilities here. Things that you would have never thought of with using this type of fabric, because it does not have what we consider to be that very large repeat. So you can see the blooming that's still going on in the fabric as I'm moving it. And again, I like the fact that it does still look like a Monet print. And I want to pull it up just a little so we can see some of the green that's down here in the bottom corner. But it is just an awesome print that you would have never thought that this would work for a stack and whack type quilt. And it's actually very gorgeous. Still keeping in line with the original theme. So you don't have to always use a big floral print. You can also use novelty type prints. Things with like cars, or child's print with cars. The wheels in them will start to make various different designs. Faces. They make very interesting designs. So a lot of your oriental prints also would make very neat stack and whack quilts. I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you have any questions, just comment to the post. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.